Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're watching us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. We've got an adjusted time today because my guest for this week is Pierre Kriegler, Head of Facilities at Capemay Properties in Accra, Ghana. So the time difference has resulted in us trying a little bit of a different slot. He
Two
also
hours.
has vast experience in real estate in Johannesburg. Pierre, thanks so much for joining me today.
It was, yeah, thanks for having me. I was quite honored actually. I was like, when I got that little reply that, oh, me, little old me. Well, gee, here I am.
But let's jump in. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Pierre Kriegler? Give us a backstory.
Oh, well, I suppose on LinkedIn, everybody knows what I do. So, yes, I'm a certified facility manager with SAFMA. I got that through a lot of hard work and 12 and a half years of it. I've run three high-rise luxury buildings, two in Sandton in 1 year. The Signature Apartments is the latest one. I come from Joburg, born in Cape Town, as I said to you. So, traveled around here and there in the world, but I work, as I say, in Accra, Ghana. How did I arrive here? Well, I was offered a job and put the family around the table, and I said, well, this is the idea. And they said, Dad, that's a nice idea. You should do this for experience. And so, well, that's how I arrived here. So here I am. It's an interesting experience, no less. I've learned a few things: the culture, the people, the food. But you can pretty much buy anything here. You can get at home, really. Oh, and we've got ShopRite. We had game, and things like that. So it's really, if people think West Africa is, well, dare I say it, deep and dark and really no civilization, well, that's very wrong. It's actually quite bustling. It's a huge metropolis. It stretches as far as the eye can see. I visited a few places. I've been to Takoradi, very interesting. I've been to the Volta River last weekend, a weekend before that. That was very nice. That was very good. The Volta River is massive. It is huge beyond. It's bigger than the Orange by far.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's massive. Went to the estuary. That's really nice. And so the climate, yeah, well, as I said to you, is only two types. It's either hot or it's dry and humid. And of course, then you have the Hamatan season in the year, which is, I think, about February, March. And the wind just blows from the Sahara and you have sand. So, And facility management over here in Accra, well, that's still a growing, how do we say, that's still growing. People are still getting to their minds around facility management as it goes, because it's not really a thing that Africa practices. Maintenance in Africa is really not the biggest thing on their books. They see it as an expense and money. So anyway, and what do I do for fun? Well, I play golf for fun. I grow vegetables, which I share amongst my family and my friends and my neighbors, and well, I enjoy that. That's kind of like my downtime. I like to work in my garage, which has all my tools and things. So I do a bit of woodwork on the side. I'm also a professional stamp dealer. You're going to wonder,
Interesting.
what the hell is that? Yes, postage stamps, those things. I've been doing it since I was about 8 years old, so that's been quite a long haul. I got it from my dad, but so I'm a professional stamp dealer in South Africa as well. It's my hobby. It's fun, keeps me out of trouble, keeps me off the street, and I gain knowledge by it. And also, if I'm having a rough day, I go to my study, I close the door, and I look at my stamps and I work on that, and it just takes me to another world. So and of course I like to read. I like to collect books on mercenaries and bush wars in Africa. So that's a little bit about me.
Very interesting. I mean, we don't find you told us a story about the fact that you moved to Ghana, but I mean, a lot of people are necessarily interested or know about it. If someone is maybe interested in like, exploring and applying for jobs outside South Africa but remaining on the African continent, where do you recommend that they should start looking? Is there a website? Is there like
Well,
where can we go?
actually, there are a few places to go. Now you put me on the spot, because actually I have. There are actually companies that actually do it, but I was approached, actually, how that happened to me, and I have one or two people that are on my LinkedIn profile that I do business with in that respect. So how it works here is in Ghana, there's a lot of expat South Africans here, and they do anything from mining to security to facility management. We've got Brawl Properties here in Ghana. They're quite a big player in the market. I'm sure you know them. Malcolm Horn's the CEO, obviously, and he comes here every now and again. So I chat with him every now and again over LinkedIn. And yeah, there's some of the property groups are here, but there are a lot of expats, and they do all sorts of things, be it IT, rail, construction, mining, security, banking even. I've met bankers, and we have functions. We are part of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce, the South Africa Ghana Chamber of Commerce. And there, we every now and again we meet at the High Commissioner's office, so to speak. But it's not really an office, but we have functions for all the expats. And you get to talk home, you get to see other people, and they ask, well, I'm going home. Anybody need to take a parcel and things like that. Postal services here non-existent, and yes, I know. Also, you have all your courier companies and things here, but they're also, but I wouldn't say dodgy, but they're a bit of, they're hit and miss, so to speak. So yeah, so not every expat knows every expat, but everybody knows of. If you talk an expat another side, he'll say, "Oh, well, I know somebody else, know somebody there, know somebody there." So, for Ghana, for instance, you need a visa. You can apply at the Ghana embassy in Pretoria. Very easy, very friendly, and it's a super easy, quick thing to do. So, if you apply for a job here and you happen to get it, normally the company that's employing you will sort everything out from their side, and then of course they will give you a letter of invite. So, in other words, I got the job here at Capemay. Capemay sends me a letter saying that I've got the job and I'll be working at so and so and doing so and so, and you take that with to your to the office at the embassy, and then obviously you have that done. And when you go through the customs officials here in Accra at Kotoka International, and they look at all that type of thing. So you have your visa and that, and then obviously the company collects you, they set you up. So if it's an expat contract, you normally have. They normally pay for everything. So it's normally they bring you in air ticket, they take you out air ticket, you get a couple of air tickets to go home every year. You have they pay for your utilities, they'll pay for your house. I have a house here. Well, I have an apartment here now. I had a house before. I have an MG SUV car. I have a driver, and I pay for the driver because, well, there's no way I'm driving in Ghana traffic. No way. The taxis here in this place can teach a couple of Johannesburg and Cape Town taxi drivers a few lessons, I promise. And they don't get aggro. They don't. There's nothing aggro about them. So you'll sit in your car, and 1 minute they'll bang your mirror. Okay. Nobody gets out the car and wants to hammer the guy or shoot him or nothing. No, they just carry on driving. Nobody gets angry. Nothing. They just carry on going. So yeah, that's kind of odd. Traffic is madness here. So the Accra Mall from where I'm sitting now is literally about 700 meters across the road. But by road, it's a half an hour's drive.
Okay, so you walk.
I'm all walking. Thanks very much. I'm going to drive. I'll use that. And I have a car. So they pay for your petrol. They pay for everything. They give you a living allowance. And so your contract is really for a year. If they like you, all good. They renew it. And then you can negotiate. And then and then you get a Ghana card, which is like South African ID card, but it's a non-resident. So, it's just so you have ID on you and everything. So it's a non-resident ID. And those are all the things you normally do. So the process is normally quite easy. It's quite quick. And the Ghanaian government is really the officials are really friendly. It's really quite different than our South African officials, So the guys are really, they're jacked up. It took me to get a Ghana card when I went. It took me last year about 40 minutes.
Wow.
And they were really friendly, and they sit you down, you fill out the forms, you do all the necessaries and things like that. So it's really not major. Of course, you can, your taxes and stuff are a little different. You can, the tax laws of South Africa, I'm sure you're aware of those. So if you're 186 days out of the country consecutively, I think it is, 60 of those have to be consecutive. So you can pay tax here. So I think the rate is 25% is an expat tax rate. So you get a TIN number. You get a TIN number and you can pay tax. You do pay PAYE in a form, but taxes here in Ghana are not, and I don't mean pay PAYE, but I mean taxes in general. like we have VAT and things like that. Those are up to, I think it's 21% now.
Wow.
So you pay VAT, I think it's 15, and then there's what is it? COVID. Yeah, they still got COVID taxes, and there's a whole lot of other things, and get funders they call it. So that all gets added up, and then if you look at an invoice, it's actually tax on tax. So it amounts to about 21%. And so, those all go to the various places. And you also have medical cover. They pay for your medical cover. You have a medical card. They also give you pension. So you get a pension fund as well. I have it in Ghana cedis. And the Ghana cedi is worth more than the rand, no less. So, yeah, it's quite funny, actually. Our developed economy should be really pumping and booming, but yet our rand is, nowhere. But anyway, be that as it may. So, yeah. Those are the things you get. So it's really quite straightforward. But normally the employment agent and the company will sort most of it out for you. But it's in the beginning, it was a fun exercise. At the moment, I don't know so much.
No, very interesting. I think people learned a lot. For anybody who has questions, we'll be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comment section so that we don't miss them. Tell us, what's the working environment like in Accra compared to Johannesburg? Maybe talk to us a little bit about the similarities and some of the differences.
Okay, well, if you're looking at like the building, the signature on my profile, there's a couple of pictures of the signature. So the signature is like, it's 2 towers, A and B. They're 13 stories each. One's got a pool on top of it. And if I took that building and plonked it down in the middle of Sandton, you would not know the difference. I promise you. It's got all the mod cons in it. It's got everything in it. So really, there's no difference in that respect. The only difference is that if I showed you a picture outside the borders of this environment that we have, next door I've got a blank piece of ground with 2 camels on it. Across the road, we've got a high-rise built, I think, by a Chinese company that's been abandoned for years, but it's a nice glass-looking structure. It's fantastic. And diagonally across that is a cattle kraal. Right behind the cattle kraal is a huge luxury house they're busy building. Okay. And right next door, we've got the church, the Calvary Baptist Church. And then obviously behind the building, which is the main highway, which is Liberation Road. So, we would think that in South Africa, this would be, around, you'd have to want to have perfection all around. This is Africa. And I think, us South Africans, we've had it too good for very, very long. And if you took this building and did what they've done here in South Africa, okay, obviously people will have problems and they wouldn't buy it because, well, they see the areas around the building as a hazard or a security risk or whatever. No, here it's different. Here the building, the houses cost anywhere between $250,000 upwards. And that's wow. US, by the way. Yeah. And you get to own it for a period of time. So I think it's a Ghana citizen. I think it's 90 years, I think. I stand to be corrected there. But an expat, 65 years only. And that's it's like you're renting the right to.
So land rights are different, basically.
Yeah, no, land ownership here is as dodgy as all hell. I promise you, it's really dodgy. So if you want to talk land ownership, that's really, you get 2 types. You get 3 types of land. If I got this right, you get public land, which belongs to the government. You get stool land, and then you get skin land. Now, the skins belong to the tribes of the north because the skin is normally a lion skin, I think it is. That's normally that's why they call it skin land. And stool land is, the Ghanaian, the golden stool. Most of the tribes of the south, they obviously stool land. And so if you want to buy a piece of land here, you actually approach the tribal elders or the tribal chief, and then you go and you do your negotiation. But at the same time, you might actually secure the land and say, now the chief dies and you've agreed with him, but not his brother. Halfway you've built the process or whatever, along comes his land guards, as they call them, these thugs.
Yes.
And he will say, well, I'm taking that now. It's now mine. You can either fight or you can stand. I've had an experience with this, so it's quite weird. And so off you go. Sometimes they'll just move into the land and say, okay, now it's ours, and off you go, and they'll chuck you up. And so, land ownership here is a big thing. Although there are a lot of investors here, there are a lot of people here. So anyway, listen, there's a lot of high rises going up, plenty. And the high rises here are really comparable to those of, say, Cape Town, Joburg, Durban, anywhere in South Africa. If you look at what's going up here and the designs of those buildings, it's incredible. So that's building wise, it's really good. Quality is not bad. Expats, a lot of here, obviously in the construction industry here. I've got a friend of mine who works for DevTracker. Yes, But as for the culture is quite different. Yeah, things. If for me as a South African coming here, I work at breakneck speed. But in Ghana, no. You've got to dial it down by about 90%, and then you're on the same train. But yet they they expect, if you like, have owners and houses, apartments like these, they expect absolute cleanliness. It's beyond. It's actually even worse than South Africa, where they expect cleanliness, service like you can't believe. They want that, you know. And people here come from America, they come from the UK, they come from Nigeria, they come from anywhere in Africa, and everybody gets on pretty well. And what I like about it here is that there's no, here they call a white person a bruni, which means white person. So they don't call you that. And sometimes you'll see when you walk in the street and they go, oh, bruni, oh, bruni, oh, bruni, which means white person. And okay, that's fine. It's not disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. In actual fact, the Ghanaians are a really respectful nation. They're friendly. They're very respectful towards others. And I always liken it to going back to South Africa 50 years ago. That when they go to church, everybody dresses up with a hat and all that. That's how they dress here, and that's what they do on a church day, which is Sunday, sometimes Saturday. So there's, and churches are plenty here, plenty, lots. That's big money as well. So there's a huge, I would say plethora, but I would say a huge spectrum of people from all over the world. The Lebanese make up 1% of the Ghanaian population. And they've been here I've got a guy that I know, he says to me, his wife's been here, I think, for six generations, since 1912, their family's been here. And they're big businessmen, and they're wealthy businessmen, and they do business here big time. Look, if South Africans, came here, and a lot of them do, to do business, let me tell you something, there is opportunities to make money here like you cannot believe. This, unfortunately, is a net import economy. So the problem means that everything you want, you've got to import it. And if it's like you can't go to a builder's warehouse down the road and go and pick up a couple of screws or a couple of nails or a couple of bolts. So that's all got to be imported. They do make some of the stuff here, yes, but it's not like South Africa in that respect. But the people are friendly. It's nice to work. You get everything you need in your office. You get everything. It's no problem. It's friendliness. I've had no, how do we say, nasty encounters, and the people that I've worked with have been nothing but friendly. They want to help, they want to learn from you. That's the biggest thing. They want to learn, so they're not short on how do we put it, wanting to learn, but they're very, like my boss is Ghanaian, and she will say, Ghanaians are absolutely lazy. And I in the beginning said, no, that can't be the case, boss. She says, don't worry, you'll be a few months and you'll see. And yes, absolutely, I support her 100% when she says that. It's just, they're just lazy, So today they'll do the contracting work. They'll lay a couple of tiles. Tomorrow, don't really feel like it. Maybe Friday, and off they go, and they'll do something else, and then they'll come back, and that's how they work. But in general, it's frustrating as hell for somebody like me who's a neat freak, who really does my job properly. Things like it's really difficult because I'm constantly fighting myself and getting people down and say, listen, guys, you can't do this. You've got to move faster, And they say, no, it's fine, tomorrow or the next day. And so it's like, but in general, if you, my boss says, tone it down or dial it, I dialed it down. So if you dial it down, you fit in. Okay, fine, no problem. So but it's pretty cool.
What is one thing that surprised you about Accra that you weren't expecting? Because I'm sure you had some preconceived ideas.
I had many preconceived ideas, and if I told you, I'd be embarrassed to say the least. You see, I collect the stamps, the postal history of the Gold Coast, which used to be Ghana. Now, up to 1957, Ghana was the Gold Coast, obviously a colony of Great Britain. And I collect those stamps up to 1952, which is the Queen Elizabeth's start of her reign. So now you see pictures. You don't go out. I didn't go much on the internet. And Gold Coast, mine's like a backwater, nothing going on. And no. When I arrived here, the airport's like South Africa's airport. When I stood on top of this building, and I just seen buildings, okay, and I seen as far as the eye could see, north, east, south, west, it's just buildings and urban sprawl. And some of them are not higher than 5 or 6 stories. But in the center of Accra, they're higher, 25, 30 stories, you name it. But that surprised me the most, that it was an urban metropolis, and it was, that things were just happening, and it doesn't sleep. I promise you, I can go to the shop at 10 o'clock at night, no problem. And I can go to a restaurant 10 o'clock. I can go out at 10 o'clock, anything I want, no problem. But don't come up at a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning and expect to go to the Accra Mall, because none of it's open. And everything just, it happens. It's just happening. And I think that really surprised me. It was like, wow, okay. So it was like, wow, sure, a shock to the system, so to speak. But you get used to it. The noise, not so much, because there's hooting, there's honking, there's this and there's that. It's like the hooter is the be all and end all communication tool in the car. So if you want to tell the guy, listen, I want to go, you hoot and flash a light. If you want to drive faster and tell him, listen, I'm behind you, you hoot. If you want to say, listen, get out of the way, I want to come past you, hoot. And so it goes on. So I've learned a lot from my drivers. So it's very interesting. And of course, like South Africa, you can buy anything at the traffic lights.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Up to a bed, no less. I promise.
What's the sentiment like in Ghana compared to South Africa? Obviously, here in South Africa, load shedding is getting us down. Maybe the economy is not as booming as someone would expect. What is it like on your side of the world?
Well, as an expat, you're kind of like somebody standing on the outside looking in, because it's not your home. You're a guest in this country. You get paid. You get everything. So the only thing it really does affect you is the cost. It's hugely expensive here. Food is food is fine. You can get it all if you're willing to pay for it. I'll just give you an idea. A tub of Denny mushrooms, for instance. In South Africa, I think it's about $25, probably less. Okay, yeah, that tub of mushrooms costs you over 200 cedis. Okay, so to give you an idea. So, so I think that, the sentiment obviously is that, well, the politicians have kind of ruined it. And, well, that's like our country as well. They've ruined it, So I think the people are on that same boat, but when it comes to, they're hugely patriotic with their country. So there's a lot of public holidays, and all those public holidays, you get Ghana independence, and they celebrate it. I think in South Africa, we've lost sight of that. We don't celebrate our national day, independence or whatever the case may be. Here, they have a military parade. They have, things like that. And that's good. That's national sentiment. I know it's expensive, and I know it's sometimes part of the past, but it's not the point. It still creates national togetherness. Here we have many races, many colors, many tribes, and they don't fight. It's not just one tribe. It's many tribes here, and they all speak, I think there's probably 12 or 13 languages here. And they speak Ewe, there's Ga, there's you name it, and they speak it. It's different, and they don't fight. Yes, okay, they argue in parliament, and okay, good. But in general, the economy's shot. So, the IMF is looking at bailouts at the moment, and the only reason is bailouts because Nana Akufo-Addo, he is the president, he's stolen the money. Like, well, gee, okay, we're not going down that road. But the point is, you get it. And you can feel it when you come in here. So it is positive. Yes, the investment is coming. There's oil here. People are positive. The Ghanaians in general are happy people. They don't. Yes, they know times are tough, and yes, it is. But in general, they are happy, and it's good. The sentiment is, yeah. If you compare it to South Africa at the moment, obviously people are unhappy, and you can feel it when you go home. When I went home in April, you could feel it. People are down, and that's unusual for me because we South Africans were never like that. The government has really not contributed to the togetherness of our country in any way, shape, or form. In actual fact, they've just broken it, really. And they're not doing much to help it. And I think you can see it. So if you come from outside in another country like I have, and you come back home, you can see it definitely. You can feel it. It's palpable, really.
I don't see any questions coming through from the audience, but this is one question that I like to ask all my guests. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
My younger self? Ooh, that's a dangerous question. No, I think younger self, I think that I should have got on the wagon to go work outside the country a lot earlier. I think that it would have prepared me for the loneliness, the difficulty of missing home and your family and all that type of thing. When you're on your own, you can do that type of thing. But when you have a family like I do, it's really difficult. So besides the money, there's ancillary things that bother you, that come up all the time. So your family tries to make it at home that everything is perfect and everything's going fine, so that they don't worry you. So, and you ask most expats, and they'll tell you the same thing. So I think that, Uwais, I think that would be my advice to myself. if you get the opportunity, go out there and work in another country, go and experience. It's really not bad. It's actually, it just depends on how you manage your mind. I said to somebody the other day, I said the hardest part of doing what I've done is fighting your own mind. I think that's how I would describe it to myself. But yes, it's a good experience. It really is. It's not a bad experience. It's really quite nice.
That's deep. We do have a question coming through from a reviewer that I want to slip in quickly. She says, thanks for shedding some light on working in West Africa. She's keen to know more. For someone who's been confined to the borders of South Africa, what is the minimum wage? Is the minimum wage reasonable compared to South Africa?
Well, actually, that's actually an interesting question, because if you're an expat and you work overseas anywhere in the world, your salary also all of a sudden takes a huge jump, because, well, you don't need to get an increase. You got the devaluation of our rand versus the US dollar or the pound or whatever they're going to pay you in. But a standard expat contract is normally in US dollars. So, if you work it out nicely and you do it properly, they pay for you. Like I said, they pay for pretty much everything. So all you've got to really do is live reasonably, don't go overboard, and how do we say? I wouldn't say squirrel your money away and keep it for a rainy day, but now's your opportunity to gather as much money as you can for one day when you retire, because you can do it twice or three times the rate earning a foreign currency. The salaries, it depends. For me, in my industry, you can earn anywhere from $2,000 up to about $6,000, depending on the country you go to. Ghana is what expats like to call a soft landing when you start expating, so to speak. Okay, that's what they call. That's what they told me. That also means that the salaries are not that, they're good, but they're not that good here, as opposed to like Dubai or the Emirates or Saudi or Australia or New Zealand or various other countries in the world where you go do this type of thing. So it just depends on the country you go to. But I do say, negotiate properly, know where you're coming from. So do your research and speak to other expats. There are lots of groups out there that can help you. There are a lot of people that can help you. Now, if you're in with an expat, they'll tell you, oh, but there's another one and this one. And so it'll go on. So you can get that type of information. But in general, the salaries are good, really. Not bad at all.
Any last few words from you or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
Well, coming to Ghana, it's a fun exercise. It's got everything that you would possibly want in a country in any way. It's fun. And the crime is not as bad. It's really not bad. It's really quite fun exercise. Okay, tourism is not that big here, but there are places to go and things to do. If you put it in the African context, great to visit. Really, it is. It's an interesting place to stop over to go to Morocco, for instance. It's an interesting place to stop over to go to Europe. So yeah, I would encourage people to come and visit Ghana. It's an interesting place to visit. It really is. Restaurants are good. Restaurant food, it's really nice, reasonably priced. Even there's an ocean basket here in Labone. So yeah, we've even got a Nguni pub in Labone as well. So yeah, everybody goes there, everybody knows it. So yeah, and don't get any idea that it's small. Accra is not small. It is huge. It's massive. You can probably rub Johannesburg and Pretoria, Midrand in, and you can call that Greater Accra. That's what you can call it. Yeah,
it's massive.
That's how big it is. That's massive.
That's a good way to end the show. The show has been live on YouTube and will be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Pierre, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks for having me. It was fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.